Hello, in this video I'm going to be talking about my turn-based strategy game which I created in Unity. As you can see, it's a very minimalist sort of design. The main thing to take away from this isn't the big black boxes and bleepy sound effects. The main thing is just, hopefully, the design of the game, the way it's balanced, the way players interact, and the way I've programmed it is the most important part of this, and all the little features I've got in. So I guess I'll start by talking about all the little features. So I've got here's the spellbook. This is sort of where all of the decisions you make in the game are made, and it's not like a shooter or anything. The main thing we do strategy-wise is we pick the spells we want to charge and cast, and then we click onto the main board here, and that casts our spells. Here is the information panel, so whenever we click something we get a bit of feedback. So I was aiming for something helpful for new users who are just exploring the game and people who haven't encountered something before, so there's lots of different things which could happen in this game, so it's useful to have the info panel there. We can click on the inspector, and then we can click on places and then learn about them, so that's really useful. I'll come to the game board last because that's the most important part. We have the turn button here, so this is just a simple button. We click and it passes our turn to the next player. And we have little volume controls here, so I've muted the music. I've produced my own music for this song, for this game. It's just, I didn't actually specifically make it for this. I like to make music in my spare time, and quite a low tempo one. This low tempo-ness. Look how chill that is. That's really nice. Yeah, so that's so chill that I thought I'd put it in here. As a thinking game requires some slow-paced music, I think. And then we have the mana and turn panel here. Mana and turn panel. So the mana bar gives us all the information that we need. This gives us our status in the game, basically. So the mana is how strong we are. How much progress we have towards completing spells and things. Each spell requires some charge. Mana charges them, and once we've reached the charge, then we get a cast, and we can cast that on the game board here. The income is how much mana we have to use each turn, and the mana remaining is how much mana we have remaining this turn. The turn panel here has a little timer, so at the end of the timer it passes turn automatically, and we skip our turn and go to the next player. So we have a limited amount of time to make our moves, 30 seconds I think, pretty sure that's 30 seconds. It counts the number of turns, because this is a strategy game based on timings, when you can charge things. There's nothing random in this game. The only thing random, I guess, is you can't really see what your opponent's doing, so I guess you can make some judgment calls, some luck-based decisions there, but there's nothing really random. There's no random number generators to decide how much mana you get at the beginning of the turn, so you can judge what your opponent's doing based on what turn it is and what they can possibly have done at that time. And finally we have the life score. So the players, this transitions nicely onto talking about the game board here, and the players are these red squares here. They represent you. They represent you. You're a Firelord. You sit on that space and you can't move. So that's basically your base, which you're trying to defend, and you try to attack your opponent's base. You each have 10 lives. In fact, if we click on it, using the inspector to learn about our space, we get this little readout here. It gives the amount of lives that we have remaining, and it gives a little description here. So we have to deal 10 damage to the enemy opponent to win the game, and you can't change that space except by killing it, basically. The only thing on the game board, other than everything, other than the spaces that you are really close to, so this is your side of the board, and this is your opponent's side of the board if this is the turn player. So obviously we're flipping from side to side, and so this is the turn player now, so this is their side of the board, and this is the opponent's side of the board. The only thing which is visible is your immediate area. Everything else is hidden by fog. So if we click on the inspector, we learn about fog. We can only see about you as far as your side of the board, and you can also see what your troops see. So you can send out troops. One of the spells you can make you can cast is to create a warrior, and that walks across the field, and that allows you to see more of the area. So let's try and do that. So first we're going to have to charge a warrior, so we have to click this is the invest button. This charges a spell, so the little arrow is pointing inwards next to the word summon warrior. That charges our spell. We have one of two charge now. We can go back to our own turn again. We can charge it again. We have one cast. When we create units, so the units are warriors and elites, there's only 2 units you can make. You place them into your allied area. So let's inspect that. Green spaces are allied spaces. So you can create units there, and you can also construct huts. So this is the area where you have complete control over those green squares. Then each turn, once you've created a unit, your units move up. So if you go back, there's 2 moves have been made here, because at the end of each turn, each unit makes a move. So I ended, it moved to here. Then my opponent ended, and it moved to here. And we can have a look at the warrior here. It's a basic unit. It moves towards the opponent each turn, and it's vulnerable to fire. So your opponent can kill it with spells, basically. Because we're Firelords and our spells involve fire, that's why it's vulnerable to fire is a key point here. So you can see as we're moving across the board, the fog is disappearing, and the fog's done just by instantiating a black space above everything, which isn't close to your units. And when you try and click on the space, you're actually being countered. Your click is sort of being countered by the fog space, and then you get the information of the fog instead of the information underneath. And yeah, and it prevents you from also clicking and sort of inspecting what units are there, and obviously just seeing what there is underneath it. So that's an interesting way of implementing that fog. But as you can see, we've got a nice little radius here. As we move up towards the opponent, our opponent has to deal with this warrior. So to deal with it, they can charge Fire Blast. So a Fire Blast deals 1 damage to a unit. Players and elites are immune, so you can't damage those elite units, but warriors can be targeted by a spell. So each Fire Blast requires 1 charge, and you get 1 cast off it. And you can cast it like so. You click the cast button. These are the cast buttons, whereas these are the charge buttons. And you can throw it at the warrior. And you can see it took some damage there. Go back to your opponent's turn. We can charge another Fire Blast on our turn because we have 1 mana. And we can throw another Fireball at it. Each turn, as you can see I've been taking damage here, down to 9 life. Each turn, the warrior can take an attack. And you can see taking some damage there. Even more damage. So it's 2 attacks every turn, effectively, because they attack on each player's end of turn. And we can charge another Fireball. Fire Blast. That's the 3rd one, we'll kill that off. And you can see instead of just the fire explosion, the little red squares representing fire exploding there, you also get the splash of the warrior disintegrating, so you get some blue squares disappeared there as well. So after that little engagement we only have 7 lives left, and the player that summoned the warrior has 10. So that's a demonstration of how the units move. And the most important part, however, of this game is the invest mana button, because this, I can just show you here. So it increases the mana income. So now instead of having a single mana each turn, we now have 2, and every time you press invest mana it increases by another 1. So we return back to the player here. Now we have 2 mana, and this allows us to charge a warrior in 1 go. Instead of taking every 2 turns and making a warrior, we can now create 1 every single turn. And equally we could charge 2 Fire Blasts. There we go. Or 3 Fire Blasts if we invest twice. And I'll just show that off again. Whoop. And 3 more blasts, and that's dead. Note that a warrior requires 2 mana to summon, whereas 3 Fire Blasts to kill the warrior off requires 3 mana. So being aggressive is being encouraged here because it's more cost efficient to create warriors than to dispatch them, to kill them off. So then it allows an awful lot of strategy in that if you surprise your opponent with a lot of units, they're going to have to spend a lot more mana than you to deal with them, and then in turn you can sit back and invest all your mana in things like huts, which increase your mana the way your mana scales up. Maybe attacked and destroyed, plus 10% of income, and each hut can produce a total of a maximum of 5, even though they cost only 5 charge. And you can also invest in things like elites, which are a lot more powerful. They can't be targeted by fire blasts and firestorms. They have to be destroyed by warriors, which are a lot weaker than against elites. And you can cast things like terraform, which is like an all-purpose spell, and they can do almost anything. You can use it to deal 1 damage to an opponent, just anywhere from the opponent's side. Just click on your opponent, deal 1 damage, just cast 10 terraforms and you win the game on your opponent, so you're effectively just removing the land from where they stand and killing them. You can also do things like create a mountain, so these brown things are mountains, units can't move past those. You can create mountains to block yourself off if you want, to be really defensive like that, but that's not a very good strategy because your opponent only has to cast 1 terraform to remove the mountain, and then you've spent 5 when your opponent has only spent 1. Stuff like that. You can also destroy huts. You can just click on a hut and kill it. And finally, yes, the volcano, which is the most powerful spell. You can charge that up if your opponent's been distracted a long time by your well-timed warrior pushes or elite pushes. You can charge this up and cast those, dealing a huge amount of damage. That deals damage to players. It actually covers this sort of area. I think it's a 3x3 area, and it kills everything in a 3x3 area. And this is quite a small board, so 3x3 is quite a lot. So, and the fire sticks around for 3 turns as well and kills everything which moves into it. So it's a very devastating sort of spell, but it requires lots of charge. So 25 is quite a lot. So yes, that's described most of what happens in the game, and I hope I gave an idea of how strategies can emerge from that. So we know when certain things can emerge, because you can only invest each turn. There's a limit to how much mana income you can have after 10 turns, and that's going to be 11 because you've invested 10 times. Or you could have created huts, which does increase the rate in which you increase mana. So there's all these sort of things you can have at certain points in the game, and there's limits to what you can have, but there's different ways to deal with what your opponent's throwing at you. So a really interesting way of doing it is to create a warrior. So warriors are quite cheap, they only require 2, so put that into perspective, the volcano is 25, so that's quite a lot. If you can summon a warrior, it's quite cheap and expendable. Have it walk up to your opponent, and you can see what your opponent has. So you can, if you send a warrior up, you can see if they've made any warriors in the near future, recently, that's the word I'm looking for. If they've made warriors recently, because your warrior's going to walk up and see the warriors that your opponent have made. If you get right up to your opponent, you're going to see all the huts that they've made, because only huts can be made here, in these green areas, so you can see all the huts. And the huts are going to be an indicator of how late game focused your opponent's playing, how much mana they're hoping to have in the future. If they're producing a lot of huts, that means they're really interested in having a high income, so they're going to be going for more high-powered spells rather than little warriors. So yes, the only little things to show you left are little sound effects. So I've added all these sound effects to coincide with me clicking these buttons. You heard Firestorm. Let's hear warriors, eh? Oh, wait a minute. Wait a second, I'm not using my interface right. There we go. You get a little sword sound there. For huts. 1 second. Oh, not enough charge. Building sounds, very nice. And you can see the income goes up after that. And the side effect of using a hut is that your mana is locked for 1 turn, so you skip your income for a turn. And that's just so that it makes huts even more late game focused. So it prevents you from making units early on because you're obviously skipping mana. In the late game, it's going to pay off because it scales up the mana increases you get from investing your mana. What else we have? We got Firestorms, so that requires 10. It does a lot of damage there. You can see the fire, and you can click on the fire and see how many turns are left on the fire. So it lasts for 3 turns. So there's only going to be 1 turn left on that. And if you see, if I was to create that warrior earlier, I would have seen that the fire would have spread up here as well. But obviously, I can't see up there, so it's going to be covered by fog. I'm going to have to kill this guy off. 1 second. That's the wrong button. Fire blast. There we go. What have I got left to show you? I've got Terraform. So, Terraform. Terraform 15, which deals 1 damage. That one only had 1 life left, so it died. And you get this heavy bassy sound when you cast Terraform, like the earth is moving. As you can see, when the opponent loses all their lives, they disappear, and you win. And the game actually ends at that point. Volcano, very similar to the Firestorm, except it adds 2 extra spaces. Firestorm is only adjacent spaces to the target, whereas Volcano is that 3x3 area, and it lasts for a bit longer as well. It's really effective. And that's about it. See the music still going? We've got the options to mute music, pause all sounds. I could take out the all the sounds altogether if that's what you wanted. And I think that's almost everything. Trying to think of something else. I didn't show you elites, but elites are exactly the same as warriors, except you can't shoot them with fireballs, and elites always win against warriors when they fight each other. Yes, and the little arrows, I'm going through almost everything here, little arrows on the spaces. I've added those in because once you get these created by both players, it's very hard to learn who's whose. So the up arrows mean they've been created by the bottom player, and the down arrows mean they've been created by the top player, which makes everything a lot more readable, more understandable. You can see what's going on a bit better. So yes, I hope you liked that little display of what I've been doing in my free time. I made this in my 2nd year of university. I'm now going into my 4th year. I made all of this myself, apart from I downloaded some of the sound effects, so like the sword scraping sounds I downloaded from a free, copyright-free website. And I made the music, I made all these little images, I downloaded the font, got to admit that. But I made all these, and you can see the graphics aren't insanely good, but yeah, I think it's quite sweet because I made it all myself. Yes, I'll see you later.